The Yankees are giving me 3 months full pay for doing nothing.
Yeah, I did it for 3 years. What's another few months?
I'm really going to do something with these 3 months.
Like what?
I'm going to read a book. From beginning to end. In that order.
I've always wanted to do that.
You can learn to play golf.
You mean golf?
Golf! Frisbee golf, Jerry. Golf with a frisbee. This is going to be my time. Time to taste the fruits and let the juices drip down my chin. I proclaim this the Summer of George.
Andy, Jason Alexander keeps winning. We're going to keep using that clip because, by the way, I can always use George Costanza in my life.
But seriously, it's August 22nd, and Jason Alexander is arguably our second best pitcher. Hunter Brown clearly is the ace, but beyond that, you got a big pile of monkeys in a bag, and
I just want to say
Jason Alexander is the monkiest of all the monkeys.
I am choosing to be a man of faith this morning. As you know, I am an employee of a Catholic school, and of course, Jesus walked on water. But more importantly, Andy, last night Jesus went 5 for 5.
And you're ethically Catholic, so I mean that's
5 for 5 last night out of Jesus Sanchez. He must have I guess saw Chandler Rome's show about how abysmal he's been.
Well, that brings his career total of 5 hit games to 2. And
Altuve has none.
Still has 0.
Yeah.
So
which one's going to the Hall of Fame?
Baseball.
Yeah. No, you gotta like everything you saw from the Astros yesterday. The offense jumped on it from the beginning. The guy that did dominate them not 5 days ago. The nitpicking could be that they did all the scoring in the first 3 innings and didn't do much after that, although they did get on base a bunch.
They were probably really tired. They hadn't been on base and run that much in a really long time. So, I mean, they were probably gassed after those 3 innings.
Also, you got another pretty good night out of the bullpen. I mean, obviously, they're using the names that have been pretty good all year. I know that Astros fans don't want to think Steve Okert's been good all year, but Steve Okert's been good all year, and he was good again last night. We got a good outing out of Caleb Ort. And, I mean, all in all, though, it was a pretty perfect game with George Costanza taking the bump.
Yeah, I mean, you have to break that streak sometime, and I'm glad it was last night because, frankly, had it been 5 in a row, I don't know that our fan base could have handled it. I mean, not that they were handling 4 in a row really well. There's a few people on the various social medias that I want to have welfare checks done on their homes. It's not your personality. It is just a sporting event.
Yeah. Your entire well-being,
But there are some people who have held out hope. I'm not necessarily one of them, that what we've experienced really the month of August, and some could argue since the All-Star break, is a lull, and that they were going to come out of it because there is enough talent on this team, that most of which is healthy, that they should be playing better than they have been. I don't know if we're going to get back to that, great feeling of the Dodgers series over the July 4th weekend, because that was probably the pinnacle for this team, at least so far.
Salad days, my friend.
But being in a place where you feel like you're competitive every night would go a long way towards easing the psyche of the fan base and the players, frankly, because they need to have something good happen for them, because for the last couple of weeks, it's just been bad after bad.
Well, then I won't bring up right now who's starting tonight for the Astros. We'll let that sit for just a bit because you talked about
everybody knows. If you say his name 3 times, if you say his name 3 times, he has to marry Winona Ryder. So I don't think his wife would be appreciative of that.
No. Yeah. No, but a lot to like. Also, a lot to like is Alvarez went 3 for 4 last night, which is he's made 2 rehab starts. That is his second multi-hit game. I am of the opinion that he should be on a plane this morning to Baltimore. I'm sure they're not going to do that because, why would they? But it does feel like, though, things are turning in the right direction. Again, Walker also had a multi-hit game. Obviously, you want to see how it rolls out tonight because the Astros are going to have to hit tonight with facing McCullers, with rolling McCullers out there. But you've been through all of this shitty time, and it's been shitty, and have increased your lead in the division over the last 2 weeks. to 2 full games.
Because despite the Mariners winning the trade deadline, they're still the Mariners and they're still a flawed team. And I guess the good news for the Astros is that the American League is full of flawed teams this year. There is no team that you look at and go, there's just no way you beat them in a series. That team doesn't exist this year. We've seen it in the past. The Astros have been that team in the past. But this year, I think anybody getting into the playoffs is going to have as good a shot as anybody else to advance and make a pretty deep run. It's just going to depend on how hot a team gets at a particular time, which is kind of how the playoffs usually work. On the Yordan Alvarez note, just because I know people are curious, United is the preferred airline partner. And in this pretend world where they're going to send Yordan Alvarez on a commercial flight by himself, there are 3 flights every day with one stop at George Bush Intercontinental from Corpus Christi to Baltimore. Just putting that out.
That up before the show.
Yeah.
That's journalism right there.
But again, they're going to charter a private plane for the 6'5", 300-pound man.
That comes pre-stacked with bubble wrap that he must sit in.
Yeah, because this is what I would imagine. I don't know how long it's been since you've flown through Bush, but they'd fly him from Corpus to Houston. He'd land in Terminal B and then have to take the shuttle over to Terminal C to get to Baltimore. Can you imagine Yordan Alvarez just walking through the airport trying to hustle to make the shuttle because there's only a 55-minute layover? I don't think that's a thing.
I think you're probably right. I don't think that's a thing either. Hopefully the Jim Crane Express is waiting for him at whatever Corpus Christi has that they call an airport, whatever.
I've flown into it once. I don't recommend it.
Yeah. I recommend avoiding Corpus unless you're going to a Hooks game at all costs.
I like Corpus. It's
a
little slower pace of life.
Yeah, I like. I used to like Port A until it turned into douchebag Central.
You mean like the entire Texas Gulf Coast?
Yeah, but Port A was like the one holding out, right? Like Port A was like
they gave up the ghost a few years ago.
It was the hurricane when the hurricane knocked everybody out, and then developers came in and
wasn't that was the plot of Twisters.
I didn't see Twisters.
I mean, I'm not joking. I think that was the plot of Twisters, where the evil bad company was chasing hurricane or tornadoes not because of the love of science or trying to put things in things to make tornadoes stop, because that's how the first movie worked. Also, if you have a leather belt and a pipe that goes 6 inches to the ground, you're fine. Even if the entire barn filled with tractor and tire implements disappears around you, you and Helen Hunt are going to be just fine. But yeah, the big bad company was chasing tornadoes in the sequel so they could swoop in and buy real estate.
All right. I know that is happening on Kauai after the fires. Yeah, I mean, it is a thing that happens. So
Maui, no fires on Kauai.
Where were the fires?
Maui, in Lahaina.
Maui, that's right. So it's happening in Maui then.
Oh yeah.
Where and doesn't Otani own one of those companies that was doing that, or is that a different Hawaii real estate scam?
Is there some reason that we're not allowed to talk about the fact that Otani might not be a good guy?
Yeah, there is a reason. He is the face of Rob Manfred's Major League Baseball.
Except that's Aaron Judge.
I mean, Aaron Judge seems like a nice enough guy who, to my knowledge, has not hit a woman, nor bet on baseball, nor robbing people out of their homes. So it should be Aaron Judge.
I think it's just time to reconcile with the fact that, and I don't need my athletes to be good guys, but Otani gets a lot of leeway, a lot of rope, I guess.
He does.
That's the Texas way to put it. For a guy that seems to be not that great, and I think you can only rely on I didn't speak English, so I didn't know what they were saying thing through the first couple of scandals. By the time you get to the third or fourth one, it's like, pick a better translator.
Then either
the best case, you're just an idiot.
Yeah, but to say you're in the only good option in that situation is that you're a moron. That's true. But looking at it's so funny to me though, man. Like you talked about how different things were, where both the Astros and the Mariners were both winning, and Fangraphs projected the Astros to win the division with 93 games, 93 wins. And now Fangraphs is projecting them to win the division with 88. It just shows you how the division really has hit a bit of a wall. And the thing I kept trying to tell people, the thing I kept trying to say to people that were kind of really worried about it, is the Mariners are as good as they're going to get. The Astros have Myers coming back and Alvarez coming back. And so there is definitely a higher ceiling I think the Astros can hit than what the Mariners can hit, unless one of these two teams, the players just wake up and start playing out of their skis. Over their skis, out of their shoes.
And I mean, if you've got a team that has the potential to do that, and I'm certainly a homer take here, but I would have to assume that's the Astros, because you do have a all-world hitter potentially coming back. And guys, probably not till next week. He's probably not going to come back till they return to Houston. Just go ahead and accept that. If he happens to show up Saturday in Corpus, be pleasantly surprised, or in Baltimore, be pleasantly surprised. But reality is, the way the Astros handle these things, he'll probably just show up in Houston. And that'll be the end of one of the guys we were going to DFA, because we have so many players we could DFA. Well, this really has been the dream roster for Astros fans on Twitter, because they have been screaming since the 22 World Series to DFA everybody who has a bad performance.
And they have been.
And so far, that's what we've been doing this year. Watch out, Caleb Ort.
Right.
Don't throw that sweeper.
Yeah. I mean, and let's talk about the sweeper for a second, just because, I think that Yanier Diaz has been very bad on both sides of the ball, both sides of the plate, I guess. And, we can talk all we want about Caleb Orp throwing that sweeper, but it was Yanier Diaz who called for 3 sweepers out of 4 pitches in that at-bat. And he had walked. So the first walk was intentional, and then the second walk was not. And then, of course, the third walk wasn't. But there's some things to, like Caleb Ort, when you've got 2 outs and he has got a above average fastball and he can't land a sweeper, then you just got to man up and go, all right, I'm going to throw it right here, and you're either going to hit it or you're not. And chances are, if you hit it, you're going to hit it to one of my fielders, and then we're going to still be playing the game. It was a stupid sequence called by Yanier Diaz.
Well, and it wasn't just that last batter. He threw something like 8 to 10 sweepers, and I forget because it's been a couple days and I've been drinking, in that inning, and none of them were close to the plate. So if you're throwing a non-competitive pitch and expecting a major league player just to randomly swing at it.
A major league player not named Yanier Diaz.
Well, I mean, there is that. You can put that in post, right? The rim shot.
I'm going to try to.
It was a gutless call. It was a gutless pitch. I would far rather take the loss, if you're going to take the loss, by throwing that fastball. Because the guy hasn't seen it. Maybe he's sitting on it because he hasn't seen it. But what you threw up there was so uncompetitive, he didn't even have to think about it. Probably had a couple minutes to think, maybe I don't have to. No, that's not going to be close.
Yeah.
Because that's how bad the pitch was. And Yanier is responsible for part of that. And I don't pretend to know with particular bullpen guys how much of that's Yanier, how much of that is the bench signaling in pitches. I know they're not technically supposed to be doing that from just a player ego sort of thing. But at some point, Caleb Ort has to take some of that as well and say, look, I can't get this pitch over. How about we try the other pitch that I can throw?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with that, but I also don't know that I don't know that Caleb Ort's not Justin Verlander. And so Caleb Ort, I think, should not have the same amount of leeway on the mound to be able to shake off a catcher as somebody like Verlander does.
Sure, but if I was any pitcher on the Astros and Yanier Diaz was my catcher, I'd be shaking him off all the damn time, because he's proven there's almost zero judgment happening back there.
Yeah, look, I'm not, like we talked about this on Monday, a little bit of the whole concept that Joe Espada, I think, is a good manager, and he's still having to learn on the job, and he's dealing with a different set of circumstances than his predecessors did, because this is the least talented. These 2 years have been the least talented Astros teams we've seen in the last 8 or 10. But the constant running of Yadier Diaz out there, while you have a really capable backup who is a more consistent player on a team that needs to do something, just is baffling to the mind for me.
Yeah, it's I think there is a lot of belief from the front office, and it extends down to Espada, in the letting the guys figure things out on the field. And I respect that at some point in April or May, maybe even into June, but we are in a division race. We have a 2-game lead despite ourselves.
Despite our best effort.
And I think we're to the point that you play your best players as much as you can play them, because there are 30-ish games left. It's not time. The wholesale changing of outfielders after pinch hitting 3 guys in a row is driving me up the wall. A, because it hasn't worked anytime he's done it, but B, it looks amateurish.
Especially when you're pinch hitting for a guy and you're pinch hitting him for Jacob Melton, who has an OPS of all of about 450.
And I guess Melton's gonna play more now that Trammell's out. I mean, that's just gonna be how that's gonna be until Myers comes back, and I hope that is sometime in the next week or so. But
we need Myers' defense out there we are missing that defense. Like, for anybody who thought that it was overblown how good of a defensive center fielder he is, we have missed that his presence out there for sure.
But even knowing that you have to play Melton more, why would you put a rookie who is struggling in that position to begin with? That part doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, especially to the point that I think most of us that know baseball in 2025 know that the main job of the manager in today's game is the managing of the ego, managing of the psychology of the player. And you're putting a kid who's not been very good in a very bad position, and shockingly enough, he didn't come through.
Yeah, I don't think it's all that shocking, frankly. Melton has some fans in the organization, and he has talent, but he would not have seen the major league roster without this plethora of injuries we've had. He's clearly not ready. We've seen it. It's not. He hasn't even had the Bryce Matthews series in Arizona or the equivalent of that to make you think he might be ready.
God, that feels like a year ago, doesn't it?
Remember Arizona? That was great.
So speaking of remembering, you remember this? It's a visual cue. All right, we got this guy now. What do we think of the Craig Kimbrell signing? I think he's going to be better than Taylor Scott. Probably.
That's a low bar. Unfortunately, we've had a lot of low bars. I think Kimbrell. I'm ambivalent about signing Kimbrell. I think it was inevitable with the injuries that we've had and lack of performance we've seen over the last month in the bullpen. That there was going to be a veteran arm signed. I know that despite what Twitter thinks, Dana Brown was very actively trying to get a reliever up until the last couple minutes of the deadline. It didn't work out because the reliever market got stupid really quickly. You can make an argument all day that we should have picked up Charlie Morton for whatever the Tigers gave up, because we could have generated a single A pitcher that's never going to see the pros. But all that being said,
can you imagine if they had made that Charlie Morton trade, the immediate reaction would have been to demand his job, demand Dana. Like the immediate reaction would have been meltdown city.
Of course, except for the fans who just go, "Oh, he was on our team before, so we like him," because we have that part of the fan base as well.
Yeah.
So it brings you back to Kimbrell. I think that he is a veteran reliever who has pitched in playoff series, and that matters to a baseball guy like Dana Brown. And it matters a little bit to some of these younger guys who are populating our bullpen right now who don't have that experience. Most of the guys that we're going to be relying on didn't really have a whole big role against Detroit, and most of them weren't here prior to that in 2023. So Kimbrel's a guy who's been through the wars. He's not going to throw a sweeper on a 3-2 count because he doesn't throw a sweeper. He's still going to live with a 4-seam fastball that still kind of spins, but he doesn't throw it as hard and it doesn't spin as much. But he's also not going to be a closer. He's also probably not going to – best case, he's your 7th inning guy that we've needed.
Thing. Yeah, we're not – the Astros literally are asking him to maybe be Taylor Scott or on days he's off, be Sousa at this point. They're not asking him to be Brian Abreu or Josh Hader.
Yeah, I mean, and it looks like the way the Astros are going to line up the bullpen, barring any other moves, it's Abreu for your leverage in the 8th or the 9th, Sousa for the rest of that, and Kimbrel fills a gap between the Ryan Kings of the world and those two guys. That's best case. Worst case, he just has to be better than the aforementioned Taylor Scott or Jordan Weems or any of the other guys that we have DFA'd and have found no other homes and are back in Sugarland.
But you're also not wrong, too, about having a presence in that bullpen, even just to be around the other guys from someone who's been through this before, I think does make a lot of sense to me from that perspective, even if he's not even asked to pitch all that much, if it's just to be a guy to help bring a little bit of this is how these things go. And there's a reason why they're not like everybody talked about, oh, they're going to get Ryan Presley, but no Astros beat reporters said that any of that was very serious. And I don't know if the relationship was so damaged based on the trade and based on him and Hader getting signed last year and all of that stuff. I'd like to think that in the professional sports, it wouldn't be that petty, but you know,
I think that's based on some things that I've heard and huge grain of salt. There are reasons beyond performance that Ryan Presley was dealt, and not just money. And some of it was the inability to accept a role and perform well in that role last year. And that wasn't going to change with Hader on the roster again this year. Presley is well past his peak, as witnessed by the fact that no other team has tried to sign him.
That's the thing. The Cubs dumped him in a minute they're in a division race as well.
Yeah.
And they DFA'd him.
But I also think that we'd like to pretend there's no egos, but I think when you have at least privately started embarrassing your general manager, it makes it really hard for that reunion to happen.
100%. And it's the kind of thing where these same Astros fans wanted him ran out of town last year because he wasn't good, because his whole thing is his breaking ball, and it wasn't breaking anymore.
And his velocity was on his fastball, so you couldn't set up the breaking ball. I mean, it's just that, and it happens to every player. I think you're seeing it happen to Framber Valdez, and that's unfortunate for us this year. But at some point, players reach a point where they're just not as good as they were. And then for some, they hang on for a while if you're Justin Verlander and you learn new ways to get through.
And he's, by the way, been really good his last 6 starts. I mean,
and for others, you fall off a cliff. And for Brian Presley, that cliff took 2.5 years, but he's there. And so barring some dramatic change in his ability to spin his breaking stuff again, he's kind of done. And I'm glad that we're not paying to watch it, frankly.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about Lance on the bump tonight. Look, I know. I will say this, for as much as rehab starts don't always matter, his rehab starts this second stint have been better than they were. I guess this is the third now. This is like the third run of rehab starts he's had, right? Because he had the rehab starts before the first injury. Didn't he have like some kind of muscle pull or something that put him back on the IL for a bit?
And now his foot.
His foot.
He stepped wrong off the mound or something.
Yeah, well, it happens to the best of us. I actually injured myself while love making the other day. Yeah, that's a thing that happened. So,
is your hand okay?
My hand's good to go, man. It doesn't even matter. Like, my hand's a gamer. Okay, my hand's like Bob Gibson, not like Ryan Presley. All right, I got to be honest, I got a wrist like Bob Gibson. I'm gonna put that on the tagline of the show.
Wrist like Bob Gibson.
Tim's got a wrist like Bob Gibson. But no, his numbers in his rehab starts were better this last time around. Do you feel like there's any reason to have any kind of hope that he can figure it out?
I mean, that's all we have right now. We have hope in a contract that I think lasts through next season.
Rebellions are built on hope.
I'm not rooting against Lance McCullers Jr. And my faces that I make when you mention his name, and it has been completely based on the results. He's been non-competitive in, I think, all but 2 starts that he's taken the bump this year. And blisters don't typically take, what are we at, 31 days to come back from. So there was something that he needed to try to fix. I hope he fixed it because, believe me, the Astros need a reliable 5 guys that they can roll out every 5 days for the rotation for the rest of this year. Part of the giant issue that we've had over this last month or so of just lethargy has been we're down 5 runs by the time the second inning rolls around. And that's on the starters.
Let me just, before you continue, let me just weigh in on that, because for everybody that wants to blame the offense, and the offense has more than its share of blame, but any offense is in a hole of 5 runs down because you change your approach when you go up to the plate. And especially for an offense that seems built on seeing a pitcher multiple times, getting into a rhythm. We don't have a lot of slug right now. That mountain just gets bigger. And if you notice, a lot of the Astros wins this year have been scoring late in the game, or even coming back from a run or two because you're seeing the starting pitcher a third time, or you're getting into the bullpen. And we've seen it with 2 of Fromberg starts. When you're down 5 runs in the first inning, it doesn't matter. No offense can reliably come back from that.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's what we've seen so many times since the All-Star break. Is just you're looking up at a massive, massive deficit, and you're right. Every player goes up trying to hit a home run instead of staying within themselves. When this team has scored a bunch of runs, it hasn't been on the back of home runs, last night notwithstanding. It's been on guys hitting single after single after single. That's, I mean, what we were driving the Dodgers crazy with in that series. That's what we were driving the Red Sox crazy with just last week. It's
last week, yeah.
Even,
it's funny too, man, is like, even if you had won the series against Baltimore, you wouldn't have been so pissed about Detroit, because Seattle caught Detroit at just the right time. They were not playing good baseball. And then the Astros end up catching Detroit back on their upswing. Like, we knew it was going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's, baseball. There are going to be teams that you face that are hot this week that aren't the next week, and maybe you're lucky enough to face them at the right time. Maybe you're hot, it doesn't matter. Maybe Jesus Sanchez has 2 5-hit games in his career, and the future Hall of Famer has none and won't ever likely get one. All of those things are what I think draws people back to the game, is that it is completely unpredictable in the small sample size. So in the confines of a series, there's a lot of weird things that can happen. Where your talent wins out is over the long haul, which is why this show continues to stick by the idea that winning the division is the thing that is most in the control of a team and the most impressive feat in a season. Because winning the World Series is winning a 4-week tournament.
Well, exactly. I want to talk about 2 different things real quick. One a little bit more upbeat, but I want to start with something a little bit more depressing. You and I have both seen the film Surviving Ohio State.
Really?
I thought it excellently done documentary. Real quick, why do you think people need to check that film out?
I want to know what the hell is happening in Big Ten schools, because this is in the line of Michigan State and Penn State, and I think Michigan has had their issues as well. It's for those that don't know, there was what did they decide? 30 years. The guy was on
30 years. He was the head doctor for multiple men's sports, and then at one point the actual general clinic for Ohio.
Yeah. So in that 30 some odd years where he had access to all of the athletes and all of the students, frankly, he was responsible for something like 2,800 instances of sexual assault, sexual abuse, up to and including rape of men, both students and athletes. Not that should matter. And the extent and the length that Ohio State went to ignore it, to cover it up, to kind of apologize for it after the guy died, and then to keep their foot on the neck of the people that dared to bring a suit against the school. And that part's still continuing.
Kind of is a great way to put it too, because they talked about the settlements that Penn State gave the survivors, and then they talked about the settlements Michigan State gave the survivors, and then the Ohio State's was like 10% of that, which was just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's if you like sports documentaries, this is probably not the thing for you because it is not a feel-good story. You don't the team doesn't win at the end. But I think it's important for us to watch things like this. A, it's very well done, but B, I think it's important to understand what goes on when an entire organization decides to remain silent about something that's obviously a problem, and how it festers and grows and the damage it does to the individuals who are affected.
Yeah, and I think I'd close that topic on saying, too, what I thought was actually really powerful about the documentary is it also works as being a piece of evidence for, like you said, something that's still happening. And I thought really well done for something, knowing when you're making this film that you're making something that has to be relevant immediately, but also has to be able to be something that you can look back on as a learning tool 5, 10, 15 years from now. Yeah.
And you would like to think there's no need for that sort of thing.
You would like to think that.
And even when I brought it up to you, you didn't know what I was talking about because you hadn't heard of any of this.
Right. No, I mean, and partly because I think we're dealing with there's a bunch of tough men. Why are they having issues? I think that that's part of the issue.
Well, and that was probably a lot of disturbing things, but one of the things that was the most glaring to me was the feedback, because people dared to step up against Ohio State, the fan base in Ohio and I guess around the country, because Ohio State is a national brand, just coming down on these guys with every bit of hatred and gender bias, I guess is a nice way to put it, about how none of it could even be possible because these are men and they would have just fought back.
Yeah. Well, yeah, definitely got to see the documentary. Last thing, man, I'm actually excited about it. I don't know where you stand, but Manfred has essentially talked about what we've all known is coming, and that's going to be expansion. And then a drastic realignment of the league. I understand the desire to go for a sort of Western Conference, Eastern Conference thing. I hope we still stay with the names American League and National League, but after that, I'm up for all of it, man. I would love to see a team in Salt Lake City. I would love to see a team in Nashville, as long as it doesn't adversely affect the Sounds, which I think we've seen with the example with Sugarland, and Vegas is going to be dealing with it soon. And with the Twins, there is no issue having your AAA team so close to your parent club. So, I mean, where are you at on all of this?
I think it's past time. I think it's time to fix the divisions. I think it makes the playoff picture a little bit easier. If you have, as most of the models indicated, 8 divisions of 4 teams. And I'm all for the idea of geographic rivalries, but actual geographic rivalries and not ones, I'm not going to pick on baseball right now, but the Cowboys being in the Eastern Conference has always been and it's historical, and I get it, but travel-wise, it doesn't make sense. If baseball is going to continue to pretend that they suffer for money because of travel costs, then make it right. From a fan perspective, the fact that the Astros and the Rangers are in the AL West is almost criminal, because there's a couple of weeks every year where their fan bases just can't watch baseball because the games aren't starting till 9:00 at night.
Oh, my students can tell if I've stayed up till 2 a.m. watching an Astros game and they lost. They can tell from my face.
Yeah, and if you're going to stay up, I mean, you might as well see a win, and that doesn't always happen. So unless you're going to start guaranteeing wins, then that's different. It would make sense. The expansion, I think, is overdue. I think there are markets that certainly can support a major league team. Of course, ownership has to be involved, and those have to be strong groups, or otherwise you end up with a Oakland A's situation or a Tampa Bay situation. So I'm hopeful that two groups are going to emerge. I know the last time this bubbled up, either Portland or Salt Lake City seemed to be the strongest groups out west, and then Nashville was probably the strongest group in the east. But there's some talk of Charlotte. There was some talk
Charlotte. I've seen Raleigh-Durham, which
and I think Carolina, you just lump into one thing, and they'll stick it in the middle of the state. Wherever there's not a mountain, and they'll be fine if that's where they go. But that would go a long way towards fixing some of the weirdness. Selfishly as an Astros fan, I don't love all of the suggestions that I've seen about where the Astros end up. So I've tried to focus on just revenge. All I really want is Bud Selig's Milwaukee Brewers to not be in a division with the Cubs, because that's the whole reason we got kicked out of the National League, is because he needed better gate. There is no other reason. But if we end up in a division with the Rockies and the Rangers and the Royals, okay, that's a division the Astros should win 7 out of every 10 years.
Yeah. I would love to be back in a division with the Cardinals again, but I don't know that geographically would make a lot of sense. But either way, just, first of all, I actually would, my model was a little bit different. I had us in a division with the Royals, the Rangers, and the Twins to keep us all in the same time zone. But either way, a regular road trip to Minnesota or Colorado, there are worse places to go watch a baseball game, for sure. Well, we'll see how it's going to go. I mean, that's the thing. We're gonna figure all of that out when we get there. But I'm kind of hoping it happens sooner than later. I kind of hope it's one of those things that when we come back from the work stoppage in 2027.
I mean, who knows what baseball's going to look like at that point? San Antonio may be in the mix.
I mean, honestly, like we've talked about this before offline, but a team position to take advantage of the Austin metro area and San Antonio. I mean, those are two really big tax bases you could draw off of. And I don't think the University of Texas would care, as opposed to putting a football team there. They absolutely would care, right? Like, and that is the professional sports team in the city of Austin. Andy, that's going to wrap us up for today. We're going to be back Monday because it's going to be game week for the Aggies and the Longhorns.
Yeah, we probably need to talk about the whole 9-game schedule that the SEC is going to embark on going into the 2026 season. I guess Texas is never going to get to experience playing Texas State or Prairie View or Tarleton or one of the other NAIA Division III type schools that the SEC gets to play in November. I'll certainly miss it because it usually was the easiest thing to get tickets for.
Yeah, that is true.
And as we've discussed, November college football is supposed to be in a sweatshirt, maybe under a blanket, gray skies. We don't get that in Texas until maybe the last part of November.
Now that's the truth. And it's why when, Jessica and I kept our season tickets after we graduated for a few years, and I just got tired of feeling like I was going to die of heat stroke at a football game. And it became unworth it to me real quick.
Yeah. And it's hard. We talked about it, a couple episodes ago, but standing in 105-degree heat to watch wrong way states and your third-team players by the second quarter is not a great use of time.
But I got to know who's going to be,
especially since air conditioning was invented.
Right. I need to find out who Arch Manning's backup is going to be. So that's important to me. All right. For Andy, I'm Jim. This has been Ballpark Nation. We're going to be back very soon. Go Stros, and we will see you then.
You got the touch.